Another failure? Oh, how shocking. I'm practically trembling with surprise. Ambassador Zorlax drawled, his eye stalks drooping in exaggerated boredom. The Galactic Confederation testing chamber buzzed with anxious murmurs as the holographic display showed yet another species bombing the survival assessment. The Verdani delegation's representative, a plant-based sentient with flowering appendages, wilted visibly. We thought we were prepared, she stammered. You thought wrong, Zorlax replied, flicking a tentacle dismissively. Your species lasted exactly 8 minutes and 43 seconds. That's what, 3 minutes longer than the Graxians? Congratulations on your mediocrity. High Counselor Tazra, an imposing figure with shimmering scales and 6 arms, shot Zorlax a withering glare. Ambassador, your sarcasm isn't helpful. This is serious business. The Confederation needs new allies who can handle Class 3 environments, not your commentary. Zorlax huffed, releasing a puff of greenish spores. When you have witnessed 792 species fail the exact same test, Counselor, perhaps you will develop a sense of humor too, or at least the capacity for advanced eye-rolling. I watched this exchange with growing frustration. As lead evaluator for the Confederation's expansion division, I have overseen thousands of potential member assessments. My name is Prel Zalam, and frankly, I'm getting too old for this nonsense. The results stand, I announced, my voice carrying throughout the chamber. The Verdani delegation has failed the Class 3 survival assessment. Their application for full membership is hereby postponed for the standard 30 solar cycles. The Verdani representative's petals turned a dismal gray. But our trade agreements? Our defense pacts, limited to Class 1 and 2 environments only, I replied firmly. You simply cannot handle what lies beyond those parameters. The testing doesn't lie. The massive chamber, with its circular arrangement of delegates from 217 species, hummed with quiet conversations. The Verdani weren't the first to fail today, and certainly wouldn't be the last. These quarterly assessment sessions had become painfully predictable. Who's next? Zorlax asked, not bothering to check the schedule. Let me guess. Another squishy species who will dissolve at the first sign of acid rain. Tazra consulted her datapad. The humans are next. A puzzled silence fell over the chamber. The who? Zorlax blinked his central eye. Humans. Tazra rapata. From a planet called Earth. Bipedal mammals. Oxygen breathers, carbon-based. Recently discovered by the Zoltan Deep Space Expedition. I quickly accessed my files. Yes, I have their preliminary data. Interesting species. Their homeworld is... Wait, that can't be right. I checked the figures again. Their planet appears to be a Class 4 environment. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. Class 4? Impossible. Ambassador Vrex of the Mortarians shouted, his metallic exoskeleton clanking as he rose from his seat. No sentient species evolves in a Class 4. Apparently this one did, I said, still scanning the data. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, robust bacteria and viruses, predatory megafauna, tectonic instability, and oh my, they even have free-flowing water covering most of their world. Free-flowing water, gasped the Jellian representative, a gelatinous form quivering with horror. As in, not contained in sealed environments? Precisely, I confirmed. And they drink it. Barbarians, someone muttered. Zorlax suddenly seemed interested. Well, perhaps today won't be completely boring after all. Let's bring them in. I want to see these humans for myself. I pressed the communication button. Send in the human delegation. The massive doors at the far end of the chamber slid open with a pneumatic hiss. 3 figures entered, walking confidently toward the central platform. They looked surprisingly unremarkable. Bipedal, as Tazra had said, with 2 arms, 1 head, and no visible extraordinary appendages. Those are the Deathworlders. Zorlax whispered, visibly disappointed. They look positively fragile. The humans reached the platform and stopped. The one in the center, slightly taller than the others, stepped forward. Hello, said the human, showing a row of disturbingly white teeth. I'm Captain Olivia Parker of Earth. These are my colleagues, Dr. Jackson Tanner and Lieutenant Felix Quill. I clear my throat. Welcome, humans, to the Galactic Confederation testing chamber. You understand why you are here. Captain Parker nodded. We are to complete a survival assessment to determine our species classification and potential membership status. Correct, I said. The test will simulate various environmental conditions. Your task is simple. Survive for 1 standard hour. The human called Tanner raised his hand. Excuse me, but we were told the test lasts for 6 hours. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. I exchanged glances with Tazra. 6 hours is the full test duration, I explained. But no species has ever lasted more than 52 minutes. The average is 11 minutes. The humans exchanged looks. Was that amusement in their eyes? I see, Parker said. Well, we are ready when you are. Zorlax leaned forward. Tell me, human, are you aware that your world is classified as a Class 4 Deathworld? Parker's expression remained neutral. We don't have your classification system on Earth, Ambassador. We just call home. Home, Zorlax repeated, his voice dripping with sarcasm. How quaint. A charming name for a hellscape. Lieutenant Quill, the shortest of the 3 humans, actually laughed. If you think Earth is bad, you should see what our fiction writers come up with for fun. We imagine places far worse and then pretend to visit them for entertainment. A horrified gasp echoed through the chamber. You, imagine worse environments for fun. Ambassador Vrex sounded physically ill. Sure, Quill shrugged. Books, movies, games. We love that stuff. Before anyone could respond to this disturbing revelation, I decided to move things along. Yes, well, let's proceed with the test. Shall we? Please enter the testing chamber. The humans follow my gesture toward a large transparent enclosure at the center of the room. As they walked, I couldn't help but notice their relaxed demeanor. Most species approach the chamber with dread, knowing what awaited them inside. They have no idea what they are in for, Zorlax muttered, settling back to enjoy the show. Once the humans were sealed inside the chamber, I activated the control panel. The test will begin with standard Class 1 conditions, then progressively increase in difficulty. Your vital signs will be monitored throughout. If you wish to terminate the test at any point, simply say we surrender clearly into the air. Got it, Parker replied. No surrendering. Let's do this. The first phase began. Class 1 conditions. Mild temperature, standard atmospheric pressure, no hazards. The humans stood there, looking almost bored. 5 minutes passed. They seemed comfortable, Tazra observed. It's only Class 1, I reminded her. Even the Jellians passed this phase. The Jellian representative bubbled indignantly, but said nothing. Initiating Class 2 conditions, I announced. The chamber's environment shifted. Temperature dropped to near freezing. Atmospheric pressure increased by 20%. A light acidic mist began to fall. The humans put on jackets they had brought with them. Did they prepare? Rex asked, astonished. Apparently. I replied, equally surprised. 10 more minutes passed. The humans were conversing among themselves, seemingly unbothered by conditions that had caused the Verdani to collapse. This is ridiculous, Zorlax snapped. Skip to Class 3. I hesitated. That's not protocol. I don't care about protocol. I want to see these Deathworlders actually challenged. Tazra nodded. I agree with the Ambassador for once. They are clearly not struggling. Move to Class 3. With a sigh, I adjusted the controls. Initiating Class 3 conditions. The chamber darkened as the atmospheric composition changed drastically. Oxygen levels dropped by 30%. Temperature plummeted further. The acidic mist turned to ice shards, swirling in violent gusts. Bursts of radiation pulsed through the enclosure. The humans stopped talking. They huddled closer together, pulled up hoods, and covered their faces with filtration masks. Again, equipment they had brought with them. They came prepared for this. Rex was practically shouting now. How did they know? We didn't tell them anything about the test parameters, Tazra said, her scales darkening with concern. 20 minutes had passed. The humans were visibly uncomfortable now, but still functioning. They had outlasted 98% of all species ever tested. Look at them, Zorlax said, a note of respect creeping into his voice. They're not just surviving, they're adapting. He was right. The humans had created a small shelter using their own equipment, positioned their bodies to conserve heat, and were taking turns resting. They are demonstrating teamwork, I noted. Most species become territorial under stress because they evolved on a world that required cooperation to survive. Tazra suggested 30 minutes. The humans had doubled the survival time of the Mortarians, previously considered the hardiest species in the Confederation. This is unprecedented, I muttered, checking the readings. Their vital signs show stress, but they are nowhere near critical. Enough games, Zorlax stood up. Give them class 4. Let's see how they handle a taste of their own medicine. The chamber fell silent. Class 4 testing was theoretical. We had never actually subjected any species to it before. The conditions were considered unsurvivable for any length of time. That's not just against protocol. Tazra objected. It could kill them. They live on a Class 4 world. Zorlax countered. How can conditions equivalent to their homeworld kill them? Because our testing chamber simulates the most extreme conditions of each class, I explained. Even a Class 4 species wouldn't normally encounter all worst-case scenarios simultaneously. As we argued, Dr. Tanner approached the chamber wall and tapped on it to get our attention. "Excuse me," he called, his voice slightly muffled. "Is there a problem?" The conditions seemed to be stuck. The entire assembly stared in disbelief. "They're getting bored," Vrex whispered, horrified. Parker joined Tanner at the wall. "We were promised a test of our capabilities. If this is all you have got, we might as well go home." Zorlax slammed his tentacle on the table. "Do it, Class 4. Now." Against my better judgment, I adjusted the controls. Initiating Class 4 conditions. May the cosmos have mercy on them. The chamber transformed into a nightmarish hellscape. Temperature oscillated wildly between extreme heat and cold. Gravity increased to twice standard. The atmosphere became a toxic soup of corrosive gases. Radiation levels spiked to near-lethal levels. Simulated microorganisms began attacking any exposed surface, and the humans laughed. Not nervous laughter. Not hysterical laughter. Genuine, amused laughter. "Now this is more like it," shouted Quill, his voice barely audible through the chaos. "Remind me of my camping trip in Australia." "What's in Australia?" someone behind me asked. "Must be one of their planet's death zones," another replied. The humans were struggling now, certainly. They staggered under the increased gravity. Their protective gear was being eaten away by the corrosive atmosphere. But they were still moving, still functioning, still adapting. 45 minutes had passed. They had shattered all previous records. Impossible Vrex mutered. Simply impossible. "Look at them," Tazra said, her voice filled with wonder. "They are not just surviving, they are problem-solving." She was right. The humans had reconfigured their equipment, using damaged parts to reinforce others. They'd created a rotation system, allowing each member to rest briefly while the others stood guard. They are not just prepared, I realized aloud. They are experienced. They have faced hardship before and learned from it. 50 minutes. The entire chamber was silent now, all eyes fixed on the humans. Their condition was deteriorating. That much was clear. Parker's movements had become sluggish. Tanner was coughing continuously. Quill's left arm hung limply at his side. But they did not surrender. 1 hour, I announced, my voice echoing in the silent chamber. Test complete. I immediately deactivated the Class 4 conditions, returning the chamber to standard atmosphere. Medical teams rushed in as the doors opened. The humans emerged, leaning on each other, battered and exhausted, but alive. More than alive. Triumphant. "Congratulations," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You have successfully completed the survival assessment. No species has ever done that before." Parker, her face streaked with sweat and blood, managed to smile. "Does that mean we pass?" Before I could answer, Zorlax approached the humans, his earlier sarcasm completely gone. "How?" he demanded. How did you survive conditions that have killed every other species we have tested? The humans exchanged glances. Then, to everyone's astonishment, they began to laugh again. You think those conditions were harsh? Tanner asked, wiping blood from his lip. That was nothing compared to what we have faced. What? Rex exclaimed. That was a Class 4 environment. The most extreme conditions in the known galaxy. Quill snorted. Please, we call that Tuesday on Earth. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions. Some demanded immediate expulsion of the humans. Others called for special research access to Earth. As the commotion grew, I noticed Parker beckoning me over. I approached cautiously. You want to know the real secret? She asked. Her voice low, and I nodded, intrigued. We cheat, she said with a wink. Life is never fair, so we don't play fair either. We change the rules, adapt the game, find the loopholes. That's how we survived on Earth, and that's how we will survive out here. But I struggled to find the right word. Human, she finished for me. That's very human. As the medical team led the humans away for treatment, I couldn't help but feel that the Galactic Confederation had just encountered something entirely new, a species that didn't just survive adversity, but somehow thrived on it. And somewhere deep in my primary brainstem, a disturbing thought formed. What if these humans weren't just another species to be cataloged and classified? What if they were something else entirely? What if they were the ones who would end up testing us? 3 Galactic Standard weeks after the humans' unprecedented test performance, the Confederation Council convened an emergency session. I, Prel Zalam, stood before the assembled representatives, acutely aware that my report would change interstellar relations forever. The chamber will come to order, announced Supreme Counselor Drav, a gaseous entity contained within an ornate hovering apparatus. His voice boomed through translation devices across the vast hall. Lead Evaluator Zalam will present findings on the human species. The murmuring ceased as I stepped onto the central platform, my data pad clutched in 3 of my appendages. Esteemed counselors, I began, I stand before you with information that defies conventional xenobiological understanding. The assessment of the human delegation has revealed capabilities that our classification system simply cannot accommodate. Ambassador Zorlax, surprisingly subdued since witnessing the humans' test, leaned forward. Get to the point, Zalam. Are they dangerous? An excellent question, one that had kept me awake through multiple sleep cycles. Yes and no, I replied carefully. In the 3 weeks since their assessment, we have conducted extensive interviews and physical examinations. The humans have been surprisingly cooperative, even enthusiastic. Their delegation has expanded to 12 individuals, representing various regions of their planet. Supreme Counselor Drav's containment field pulsed impatiently. We are aware of the delegation expansion. What have you learned? I took a breath, organizing my thoughts. First, their survival in our test wasn't a fluke. We have subjected different humans to modified tests, and they have all demonstrated similar resilience. But here's what's truly fascinating. They are physiologically unremarkable. Unremarkable? Ambassador Vrex scoffed. They survived Class 4 conditions. Yes, but not because of exceptional biology, I explained. Their muscles aren't particularly strong. Their skin isn't unusually thick. Their respiratory system is efficient but not revolutionary. By all physical measures, this should be a Class 2 species at best. High Counselor Tazra's scales rippled with confusion. Then how did they survive? That's the million-credit question, I said. It appears to be a combination of factors that transcend simple biology. Their endocrine system produces chemicals that allow them to temporarily exceed their physical limitations. Their neural pathways show unusual adaptation to pain and stress. But most significantly, they possess psychological traits we have never encountered. Like what? Zorlax demanded. Like finding humor in deadly situations, I said. Like turning survival into a competition. Like what they call spite, the desire to succeed specifically because something or someone suggests they cannot. The chamber erupted in confused discussions. I waited for quiet before continuing. Consider this recording from human Lieutenant Quill's private quarters, captured with his knowledge and permission. I activated the holographic display. An image appeared of Quill speaking with another human named Monica Torres, a geologist who had joined the expanded delegation. "So you just laughed?" Torres asked, incredulous. Quill shrugged, taking a bite from a brown rectangular food item. "What else were we going to do? Panic?" The looks on those aliens' faces when we asked for more difficulty, priceless. "But Felix, you fractured 3 ribs and got second-degree burns." "Worth it," Quill grinned. "Besides, I have had worse rock climbing in Colorado. Remember when that lightning storm hit while we were on that exposed ridge? Now, that was scary." Torres laughed. "Or that time our research vessel nearly capsized in the North Atlantic." "Good times," Quill sighed nostalgically. "Better than any vacation resort." "Hey, you think they will let us try a Class 5 test?" "There isn't one," Torres replied. "Yet," Quill winked. "I bet they are designing one right now." "Can't wait." I paused the recording. This conversation highlights several key points. The humans reminisce about near-death experiences with fondness. They actively seek danger. And most alarmingly, they correctly predicted our response. We are, in fact, designing Class 5 parameters. A nervous titter rippled through the chamber. "There's more," I continued, my voice grave. When asked about their homeworld, the humans revealed that their planet experiences regular disasters. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods, droughts, pandemics, and more. Their history is filled with catastrophes that have killed millions of their kind. "How dreadful," gasped a Florian representative, her petal-like appendages curling inward. "But here's the crucial point," I pressed on. "Instead of creating societies that avoid these dangers, they build directly in disaster zones. They construct homes on fault lines, in tornado corridors, beside active volcanoes, along floodplains. When asked why, they simply say these locations are desirable or beautiful. They are insane," Vrex declared flatly. "No, y correcta. They are something else entirely. We have been conceptualizing survival all wrong." I displayed a new holographic image, a chart comparing species reactions to threat scenarios. Every Confederation species follows similar patterns when faced with existential dangers. We avoid, we hide, we adapt slowly over generations. The humans? They confront, they challenge, they adapt within their own lifetimes. A move to the most disturbing evidence. In my final interview with Captain Parker, I asked what humans would do if their planet became uninhabitable. Her answer was revealing. She said, and I quote, "We'd find a way to fix it, or we'd leave and find somewhere else. Either way, humanity continues." The chamber fell silent. When I pointed out that fixing a planet or planet-wide evacuation exceeds the technological capabilities of every known civilization, she laughed and said, "Well, then we'd better get inventing, hadn't we?" Ambassador Zorlax's eye stalks quivered with what I recognized as fear. "You are saying they believe nothing is truly insurmountable." "Precisely," I confirmed. "And based on extensive psychological profiling, this isn't bravado. They genuinely believe it. More importantly, their historical records suggest they might be right." I displayed the next image, a timeline of human technological advancement. 200 years ago, humans could not fly. 150 years ago, they had no electronic communication. 80 years ago, they were limited to their planet. 40 years ago, they were restricted to their immediate solar system. Their technological progression is not linear, it's exponential. Hazra leaned forward, her scales now a pale shade of worry. "Are you suggesting they could surpass our technology?" "I'm suggesting they already have, in certain domains," I said, bringing up the next display. "Their weapons technology is particularly advanced. Not because they are inherently violent, but because their history is marked by constant conflict. War drives innovation faster than peace. So they are dangerous," Zorlax concluded, almost satisfied to have his suspicions confirmed. "It's not that simple," I insisted. "Yes, they can be dangerous, but they are equally capable of extraordinary compassion, creativity, and cooperation. During their extended stay, human Dr. Tanner identified and created a treatment for a respiratory condition affecting the Melbari delegation, a problem our medical teams have been struggling with for decades. He did it for fun in his spare time. I displayed one final piece of evidence, a musical composition. This is what the humans call a symphony, created by a composer named Beethoven. He wrote this while completely deaf, unable to hear a single note. Share this to illustrate a critical point. Humans don't just overcome obstacles, they create beauty from them. The haunting melody filled the chamber, complex and moving in ways that transcended species boundaries. Many counselors shifted uncomfortably and used to such emotional stimulation that I let the music play for 30 seconds before continuing. The question before us isn't whether humans are dangerous. All species can be dangerous under the right circumstances. The question is, what does the Confederation stand to gain or lose by including them? Supreme Counselor Drav's containment field pulsed with authority. Your recommendation, led evaluator? This was the moment. My career, possibly the future of interstellar politics, hinged on my next words. I recommend provisional membership with direct pathway to full integration, I stated firmly, but with two unprecedented conditions. First, human expansion must be closely monitored and initially restricted to uninhabited systems. Second, we immediately establish a joint research initiative focusing on human adaptability, with the goal of improving Confederation species resilience. Outraged exclamations echoed throughout the chamber. "This is outrageous," cried Ambassador Rex. "You want to study them? Like laboratory specimens?" "No, incorrecta. I want to study with them, as partners. And what if they refuse these conditions?" Zorlax challenged. "They have already accepted them," I replied calmly. Captain Parker and her team found them perfectly reasonable and are eager to begin collaboration. The chamber exploded in chaotic debate. Some representatives were shouting about security concerns, others about ethical implications, still others about economic opportunities. Supreme Counselor Drav's booming voice silenced the room. "This requires a full council vote. But first, I believe we should hear from the humans themselves." The massive doors swung open. Captain Parker entered, flanked by her original team and 3 new delegates. They walked with that peculiar confidence I'd come to recognize as distinctly human. "Captain Parker," Drav addressed her, "you have heard the evaluation and recommendations. Do you wish to address the council before we vote?" Parker stepped forward, surveying the assembled representatives with a calm smile. "Thank you, Counselor Drav. I will be brief, as I understand you have an important decision to make." She paused, making eye contact with various delegates around the chamber. "Many of you fear us because we survived your test. Some of you are curious about us for the same reason. Both reactions are valid, but I think you are missing something fundamental about humanity." Parker gestured to her team. "We didn't pass your test because we are stronger or faster or smarter than you. We passed because we have been testing ourselves since we first stood upright on the African savanna, surrounded by predators that could tear us apart. Every step of our history has been a test. Ice ages, plagues, wars, natural disasters. We have failed many times. Entire civilizations have collapsed. Millions have died. But humanity continues because we learned something crucial. The test never ends. There is no final exam, no point at which we can say we have made it and stop striving." Her voice grew passionate. "That's what you saw in your testing chamber. Not extraordinary beings, but ordinary ones who simply refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible. We don't believe in no-win scenarios." Lieutenant Quill snorted quietly. "Some of us call it being too stubborn to die." A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the chamber. Parker smiled. "The Confederation has existed for millennia. You have created something remarkable. Peace among diverse species, shared knowledge, mutual protection. But from what we have learned, you have also become comfortable, cautious. You have forgotten what it means to be challenged." Ambassador Zorlax's eye stalks stiffened indignantly. "Are you suggesting we have grown weak?" "Not weak," Parker replied diplomatically. "Specialized, efficient within known parameters. But the universe doesn't care about your parameters. It will throw the unexpected at you regardless. And that's where we come in. Dr. Tanner stepped forward. In just 3 weeks, we have identified 17 critical vulnerabilities in Confederation systems, from your environmental controls to your defensive capabilities. We don't share this as a threat, but as a demonstration of what fresh perspectives can offer. We don't want to disrupt the Confederation, Parker continued. We want to join it, to contribute, to help prepare for challenges none of us can yet imagine. Because if there's one thing humans understand, it's that the universe always has another test waiting. The chamber fell silent as her words sank in. Supreme Counselor Drav's containment field pulsed thoughtfully. And if we vote against your membership? Parker shrugged. Then we go home, continue developing our technology, explore space at our own pace. Perhaps our paths will cross again someday, or perhaps not. Either way, humanity will continue doing what it's always done, adapting, exploring, surviving. But, she added with a smile, we'd rather do it with friends and alone. The vote took 3 hours. Debates raged. Alliances shifted. At one point, the Jellian delegation nearly liquefied in agitation. In the end, the motion passed by a narrow margin. 119 in favor, 98 opposed. Human provisional membership was approved as the chamber emptied. I approached Captain Parker and her team, who were accepting congratulations from various supportive delegates. Well, I said, extending 3 appendages in the formal greeting of my species, it appears we will be working closely together in the coming cycles. Parker took my appendages without hesitation, another distinctly human trait, their willingness to adapt to alien customs. Looking forward to it, lead evaluator, she replied with that curious human expression, a smile. I think we have a lot to learn from each other. Indeed, I agreed, though I'm curious about something. During your address, you mentioned that you have identified 17 vulnerabilities in our systems. Was that true, or a strategic exaggeration? Parker and her team exchanged glances, then burst into laughter. Oh, Prell, Quill chuckled, using my personal name with typical human informality. It's actually 34 vulnerabilities. We just didn't want to scare everyone. I felt a chill run through my central nervous system. And you plan to help us address these vulnerabilities? Of course, Parker said, sounding genuinely surprised I would ask. That's what allies do. As I watched them walk away, chatting animatedly about celebration plans, I couldn't shake a profound realization. The Confederation had just undergone its own test. And like the humans in our testing chamber, we hadn't even realized we were being evaluated 0.6 Galactic Standard months later. I stood on the observation deck of the Confederation flagship Eternal Harmony, watching a spectacular sight unfold before me. A massive asteroid, knocked out of orbit by gravitational anomalies, was hurtling toward the Melbari colony world. Conventional Confederation protocols would have called for evacuation, abandoning the planet and its infrastructure to devastation. Instead, a joint human Confederation team had deployed a revolutionary defense system. Piloted vessels, crewed by volunteers from both human and various Confederation species, were attaching propulsion devices to the asteroid surface. Remarkable, murmured Ambassador Zorlax, who stood beside me. His sarcasm had diminished considerably since working with the humans. 6 months ago, this would have been deemed impossible. The humans call it thinking outside the box, I replied, watching as the asteroid gradually changed course. A strange expression, Zorlax noted. What box? It's metaphorical, I explained. It refers to a cheer erupted from the command center. The asteroid's trajectory had cleared the planet's orbital path. Disaster averted. They are changing us, Zorlax said quietly. The humans, they're changing how we think, how we approach problems. Yes, I agreed. And we are changing them too. Their recklessness is tempered by our caution. Their impulsiveness balanced by our deliberation. Captain Parker approached, her uniform now bearing both human and Confederation insignia. Enjoying the show, gentlemen? She asked. Quite impressive, Zorlax admitted grudgingly. Though, I noticed 3 of the pilots were human. Always eager to risk your necks, aren't you? Parker laughed. says the ambassador who volunteered for next month's expedition to the Radiation Nebula. Zorlax's eye stalks wiggled in embarrassment. Merely scientific curiosity. Parker smirked. Nothing to do with Dr. Tanner, saying it looked too spicy for non-humans. I watched their friendly banter with satisfaction. This was the future I had hoped for when recommending human membership. Not just tolerance, but genuine collaboration. Growth on both sides. The Supreme Council has approved the expansion of the Joint Adaptation Research Program. I informed them. 17 more Confederation species have volunteered to participate. Excellent, Parker exclaimed. And just wait until they see what Lieutenant Quill's team has developed. A portable environmental adaptation suit that can withstand even Class 5 conditions. There is no Class 5, Zorlax pointed out. Parker winked. There is now. We helped design it. As we turned to watch the celebration unfolding in the command center, I reflected on the strange journey that had brought us here. From that first surprising test in the evaluation chamber to this moment of shared triumph, the humans had taught us something vital. Tests weren't just about passing or failing. They were about learning, adapting, growing stronger. And sometimes, just sometimes, laughing in the face of impossible odds was the most rational response of all, because the universe would always have another test waiting. But now, we would face it together. Prell, Parker said suddenly, interrupting my thoughts. There's something we have been meaning to ask you. Yes, Captain. She grinned that disarming human grin. How would you feel about visiting Earth? We have got this little tradition called extreme tourism that I think you might find educational. Zorlax made a choking sound. You want to take the lead evaluator to a Class 4 Deathworld for fun? Absolutely. Parker nodded. Nothing builds trust like shared terror, right? And despite every rational thought in my 3 brain stems screaming objections, I heard myself saying, when do we leave? Perhaps the humans weren't the only ones changing after all.